Good morning. Today is Monday, February 23rd, 7:07 a.m. It's good to be here with y'all today. Let's dive into some news. It's a new week. It's a new day. Cartel violence leaves American tourists trapped in Mexico. War breaking out in the streets. I was wondering when the war in Mexico would escalate. We've been focused on these wars across the world: Ukraine, Venezuela, Israel, possibly Greenland. When is it going to come to Mexico? Well, Mexico has this thing that makes it a little bit unique. Similar to Venezuela, we have a dual government in Mexico. We have the semi-democratically elected Mexican government, and then we have the cartels. Cartel retaliation after El Mencho killed. I've never heard of El Mencho. Do you guys know who El Mencho is? You know, this is something that will continue to escalate. Everybody that I've talked to has any kind of knowledge with about the state of tourism and the cartels in Mexico. It's pretty depressing. The cartels are right there in the tourist hotspots. There's no separation. They operate with as much freedom as they'd like. What I would anticipate, Mexico needs to crack down on the cartels, otherwise the United States will crack down. Just like we did in Venezuela. I would not put it as too much of a uncertainty here. I would anticipate that Mexico would become another proxy state, just like Venezuela. I don't think this will be allowed to continue under the Trump administration. It just doesn't make any sense. This is, if somebody showed me this picture, I wouldn't have guessed Mexico. I would have guessed, except for the word motel there, I would have guessed somewhere over in the Middle East, somewhere across the pond. It's just unfortunate. We've been turning a blind eye to the violence at our southern border for so long. I think we're just used to ignoring it. It's too close to home. It's a little too scary for most Americans' palates. We really just need to crack down. We're finally cracking down on the border. It's hitting the bottom line of the cartels. We're finally taking it serious. I would love to see our law enforcement take it a lot more serious. I'm talking about the FBI. Let's see, more than 500,000 Americans in the dark as nor'easter slams power grid. That's right, the eastern part of the country took all the western part snow. We're about a balmy 50 degrees anymore during the day out here in Idaho. Well, we'd love to have some of that snow back, but they took it. That's a lot of Americans out in the dark. I think that is a indication of the state of our power grid, folks. We really could use a lot of those modular reactors, nuclear reactors. I think that would ease our power grid. There's such a connected grid, especially back east. I would love to see us improve our infrastructure for our energy. Because when one storm, now this is a huge storm, don't get me wrong, it's a massive storm, but when you have so many Americans living so close together under such a tightly connected grid, in the event of any terror attack, you can see that 500,000 Americans without power, that's a bad deal. and a storm just did it to us. Anybody wanting to knock things out intentionally, they could do a lot of damage with a little bit of a coordinated attack. Let's see, what else do we have here? Epstein files rattle elite circles. That's old news. Mar-a-Lago suspect was a good kid who wouldn't hurt an ant, the cousin says. Well, that's why you don't play with shotguns around the Secret Service. That's something fishy going on there. Okay, Ayatollah's arsenal versus American firepower. Iran's top 4 threats and how we fight back. Well, I'm curious whose boat that is. That looks like a speedboat with a machine gun on the front of it. We've been practicing the art of blowing up boats from the air with these drone strikes down near Venezuela. I imagine that'll just translate over to the Ayatollah's arsenal as we start taking out their firepower. Thomas says Supreme Court misread IEEPA, wrongly blocking Trump's tariff plan. It's very possible. The law is only as good as the interpretation of the law, and we all know Justice Thomas is a longtime supporter of President Trump. But look into that one if you're interested. Let's see, anything else here that's interesting? These are the headlines on this Monday morning. Trump warns Supreme Court birthright ruling would make China happy and rich. Did they come out with the birthright ruling? Let's see here. President Trump lashed out at the Supreme Court for striking most of his tariff agenda. We've gone over that. Let's see. Supreme Court. I get a kick out of this. I had to reread this for a second. The Supreme Court, and this is the quote from President Trump, will be using lowercase letters for a while based on a complete lack of respect. When the President of the United States clarifies how he uses uppercase and lowercase based on whether or not he wants to yell or disrespect someone, I find that incredibly funny. I think it fits incredibly well in this day of the texting champions of our younger generations. Let's see here. Is this even incompetent Supreme Court did a great job for the wrong people. They should be ashamed of themselves. Birthright citizenship, saying 14th Amendment was not written to take care of the babies of slaves, which it was proven by the exact timing of its construction, filing, and ratification. What is he trying to say? Trump signed his birthright citizenship order on his first day back in office last year. The order seeks to end birthright citizenship for nearly all persons born in the U.S. to undocumented parents, parents with lawful temporary status in the country, which I would agree with that. We've been very, 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 very lax on the understanding of what makes a citizen of the United States of America. I don't think we have challenged that idea because we've had this false notion that it's enshrined in our Constitution that if you're born in this country, you are a citizen. And it doesn't make much sense. Being born across the line of the border, it means nothing as to the values, as to the loyalties of a person in their heart and their intentions. There are many patriots in this country that were not born here, and they became citizens, and there should be a path to citizenship. But this country has a culture, and it needs to be built upon the history of this country. And for better or worse, whether you have parts of this country's history that you disagree with, parts that are personal, there is many people in this country that have correct complaints against the history of this country. However, when you look at the country as a whole, when you look at the opportunity and the chance for prosperity, that a man can stand up and carve out some prosperity for himself. Now, that's becoming harder and harder. And it's harder depending on where you're at in the country, and it's harder or easier depending on where you start in this country. But regardless of your ideology, why are people choosing to have their children born across the border in this country? Why is that still a thing? Why is that so important for immigrants to come here and risk being caught breaking the law? Not previously. Now they risk that just for the chance that their children can be born in this country. If you enter this country illegally and you are not supposed to be here, and you are not provided the full rights and privileges of American citizenship, then that should not pass on to your posterity. That should not pass on to your children. If you are here illegitimately, then you are not a citizen, and neither should your children be here, because they are not here legitimately either. So let's see, Supreme Court, did they rule on this? A Supreme Court ruling on the issue could have sweeping implications. I didn't think that they ruled on this. This is a massive issue for this year, being an election year for the midterms. This needs to be considered. It needs to be. Supreme Court is set to consider. Well, that's fantastic. I'm not too concerned about the tariffs. He lost that issue. This is one that needs to be won. We need to set a clear line in the sand, because the old one, the border, was not so clear. We need to set a clear line in the sand as to what it means to be a citizen of this country, and we need to enforce it. Then I think that will happen. I have confidence in our Supreme Court. I may be eating crow for breakfast here soon, but I am confident that the correct decision will be made. Let's see. Republicans plot targeted blitz to defy history again. I have no idea what that's talking about. New top alcoholic beer reflects Americans' zebra striping drinking habits. Let's look into that for a second. What are they talking about? With Americans zebra striping instead of quitting drinking, Michelob Ultra Zero is cashing in. What is a zebra striping beer? That doesn't make any sense. Michelob Ultra Zero has surged to become the #1 top-selling and fastest-growing non-alcoholic beer in the country, overtaking Heineken just 12 months after launching. Let's see here. And I've tried that one, Michelob Ultra. It tastes like Michelob Ultra. It's a little bit sweet. Gives you a little bit of a sugar aftertaste. Rather than abstaining entirely, many consumers are alternating between alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverages. I gotcha. Allowing them to extend nights out without the next day consequences. That just makes you have to pee a lot. If you're looking for a good time, do you want to be known as the zebra striper? I don't know. That's funny. They give some pretty funny names to these ones. That's interesting that, let's see. Number 3, Budweiser Zero. Interesting. That is my preferred non-alcoholic beers. Budweiser Zero tastes like Budweiser, and it's not quite so sweet in the aftertaste. Who's number two? Who's number two? I don't. Doesn't look like they name them. Oh. Well, what's your preferred flavor, folks? Leave a message in the comments there. Anything else we need to dive into? We're 15 minutes in this Monday morning. Let's see here. Former Secret Service agent details rise of political violence after Mar-a-Lago shooting. Yes, I talked about it yesterday, folks. We will see an escalation in political violence. That's how they pressure you into staying silent. And unfortunately, folks out there are a lot of people who will be turned off by the violence and say, I'm not participating. I'm just not into that. It's too divisive out there. Well, you have to wake up and realize when they are coming for you. Because they are. They're already on their way. They don't care if you're peaceful. They don't care if you're not interested in participating. You know what happens? They disenfranchise you on purpose so you don't show up. And things get decided by those who show up. That's exactly how this country works. That's exactly how the laws work. You have to be involved. You have to get out there, become educated, educate your neighbors, educate your children, and fight for the values you believe in. And if you don't know what you believe in, well, then they have won. You have to know what you are willing to go fight for. You have to figure that out. Find yourself. When you know what's worth picking up a rifle for, then, and it can't be nothing. Let's put it that way. Because there's a lot of folks out there, too, that they're not willing to fight for anything. And that's not the right answer either. You have to be willing to go to war for the values that you hold dear. And you need to hold some values dear to your heart. We can go over some of those in another episode here. But, yeah, you have to be willing to fight. You have to know what you're willing to fight for. And then you got to get off your couch and actually do it. Let's see. Houston schools face closure as Texas parents rush to cash in on education accounts. Interesting. Now, I think we're seeing a little bit of a shift here in Idaho, and we're going to jump over to some Idaho news right now. No good deed goes unpunished, and that's what's happened in Idaho with some of the elective credits that they've done for the homeschool kids. We should not be giving free money away with no checks and balances as to how it can be used. If they want to give money to people who are homeschooling, strike the tax off their property tax for the school districts. Let's stop funding our education system if they're so keen on giving money to those who are homeschooling. Well, I'm going to skip CNN today. I just don't have it in me. Let's jump over. Okay, Idaho Statesman. Let's see what we've got. Moscow murders. Did I say that correctly, everybody in Idaho? Moscow? Oh, it's Moscow. Moscow murders. Defamation case finally goes to trial. Months after killer confessed. Interesting. A Texas woman who said her psychic abilities pointed to a University of Idaho professor as behind the college student murders heads to court. Well, that was a little hasty of that psychic. Oops. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Idaho girls basketball state tournament championship scores. We're going to skip that today. 2 from Nampa dead after colliding with a tree. That's not good. overlooked junior carries Eagle girls basketball. There must be the basketball state tournament going on. Hey, I guess I should read the headlines. Idaho girls basketball state tournament. Okay, let's see. Let's jump over. Let's see what they got here. Let's try and filter some of this. Oh my gosh, that's why we don't click on these things. Let's see what's going on in the business world. More downtown demolition. What's planned for Jefferson Street? That is an ugly building. I hope that's not what's planned for Jefferson Street. Oh my gosh. Why is it that all modern architecture is paying ode to the communist state? Where is the beauty and the creativity in our world? Let's see here. Whoever does these websites needs to figure out how to actually make news readable. Am I just not scrolling far enough? Half of it's ads. The other half looks like ads. This is why it's so hard to read the news nowadays, folks. Oh, is this business? Let's click politics. Is Republican Brad Little running for re-election? You know, I wouldn't be surprised. Mostly for this fact, folks. The Republican Party has no runner-up. They have not fostered any kind of base in their party here in Idaho, and that is a problem. The Democrats run as the party opposed to the Republicans here in Idaho, and that's all they have to do. It's the political equivalent in the state of what the NRA is in every other state. It's an easy platform. Just say no. Anytime someone brings up Republicans, the Democrat Party in Idaho just has to do one thing. Just say no. And they are gaining ground because they at least have a clear direction. With all the infighting in the Republican Party in Idaho, who have they fostered in the ranks as a successor to Governor Brad Little? You know, at least the previous governor, Butch Otter, had Brad Little teed up to carry on his agenda. I think that's coming to an end. I hate to say it, and it almost makes me want to wash my mouth out with soap. I foresee a time in the near future when Idaho accidentally elects a Democrat governor. And it's because there is such a large constituency in Boise that is willing to defy state law and fly these flags. And they do it with impunity because nobody actually stands up to them. In Idaho, it should be swift action. Instead, there's too much infighting and political posturing to get anything significant done. We are a state who has lost our moral compass, and we are going the direction of Utah. They ought to just annex us and call us North Utah at this point. And those are strong words because I'm very disappointed in Utah. But that's what's happening, and that's the direction. As goes Utah, Idaho is next, and I hate to say it. Let's see, writing on the wall, why Idaho legislators target LGBTQ plus protections. Oh boy. Okay, I might have hit the nail right on the head. Okay, I love these pop-ups. Okay. September 2018, Treg Burnt was one of 6 Meridian City Council members deciding whether to adopt a non-discrimination ordinance protecting LGBT Meridianites. Burnt told the audience that he was appalled that the legislature, which had for years heard calls to protect those residents at the state level, had not moved on the issue, but he still didn't believe that it was the city's place to include that protection. Well, that's a reasonable politician there. not wanting to step over the line because he believes it's the legislature's place. I believe in equality for all, but he's going to face a hard choice again. Let's see, Bruce Skog from Nampa brought a bill to preempt city non-discrimination ordinances, including meridians. The bill passed the House and awaits a hearing in the Senate. If it advances, it would go to the Senate floor, where Burnt would have the opportunity to vote on it. Let's see here. Let's look into the bill. Statement of purpose. The Uniformity in Local Administration Offices Act would prevent local government entities, such as counties and cities, from enacting ordinances that impose some anti-discrimination requirements beyond that which is required by the state. Idaho currently prohibits certain forms of discrimination in employment, housing, education, and public accommodations on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, age, disability, or national origin. This legislation would preempt burdensome local ordinances and bring these regulations into alignment with state law. Under the legislation, the Attorney General may seek injunctive relief against a local government entity that violates the provisions of the law. Businesses, property owners, and residents would also have standing to challenge anti-discrimination ordinances which exceed what state law allows. Legislation causes no increase or decrease in revenue. Well, there's probably, I'm not sure if I would have worded it quite like that, but no, that makes sense. It prevents every local government from becoming their own social justice camp. That's the tough thing, is even if that goes to the House, because we've waited a year for this to happen. Even if that goes to it's passed the House, it goes to the Senate, even if it's enacted, I have no faith. I have greater faith in the Supreme Court, who is willing to do some pretty funny things, than I do in our Idaho legislature and even the Attorney General in enforcing our laws as this kind of behavior marches down our main streets. I'm all for freedom. I'm all for express yourself. That's why I love living in Idaho. But people have taken it upon themselves to parade these things in front of us and demand validation of their way of life. It's disgusting. It makes no sense. I'm all for people living their lives the way they wish to live them. I am not for giving special treatment and special considerations and special laws and special protections and special everything to people who just stand up and claim they are special. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't walk around saying that I am special. I don't validate anyone else who says they're special. Growing up, being called special was not a thing that I aspired to. I bet there's a fair portion of the population out there, their parents called them special, and it wasn't a good thing. And we learned from that. Let's see, we're 29 minutes in. Let's see if there's anything else here on the Idaho Statesman. Let's see here. Idaho lawmakers are divided. What does it mean to medically neglect a child? We're going to save that one for another day. Idaho changed how suicide hotline serves kids. A teen wants change to save others. How did the suicide hotline change? I hope it doesn't say leave a message after the beep. That would be terrible. Let's see here. Jacob Woods dialed the number dialed the 3 numbers he'd long ago memorized. 988, which is the number for the suicide hotline. Let's see here. Okay, let's see here. The person on the phone, about 5 minutes into the call, the person on the phone gently told him that unless he was in an active crisis, they couldn't talk to him without parental consent. A bill lawmaker